Hello, everybody. It is Rocco, your boy, coming at you once again with another Age of Sigmar video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the current General's Handbook, the 2023 to 2024. You're going to be with us for a full year of wizard magic madness. So, strap in. We got to revisit list building for this, all right? Because we've got new specialty battalions specifically for this season. That's the word they used. We've got, I like to use a year of fun. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Has this building functionally changed? As I wear my New York Mets shirt. Yes and no. Okay, listen, here's the thing. There's some rules that are just that we've covered in Rocco's rules and different things throughout this channel that will always remain constant. All right, and we've had an influx of newer subscribers and viewers that are learning how to play the game for the first time, this is for you. Also for you if you're like, oh, I've been doing this so long, you forgot the basics and you've been losing games lately. This is a refresher. All right, so strap in. Here we go. Also, you can see this question here: to whiz or not to whiz? That really is the question. Now, let's first go over some common terms, jargon, some might even say, so we have a communal language with which to talk about this topic because it's a lot. So we're gonna keep this simple. All right, a hammer unit, right? This is just me talking to you. Follow me, camera guy. Hammer unit is a unit that does the damage in your army. Okay? Unit that does the damage. As long as you can get them to do the damage, they are the damage. I like having 3 melee hammer units in a list generally. Generally, not every army can do all these things, so we're going to talk in generalizations here. All right? But really, I just like having at least 3 in general. The reason why I like 3 melee threats is because in Age of Sigmar, we have activations for the combat phase that alternate. Whoever's turn it is goes first. Then it's the other person's turn. You go back and forth. There are some rules that force units to attack out of sequence, which this is not covering. Looking at you in the comments, ready to be like, actually. Actually is a wonderful game show that doesn't need to be here right now. All right, follow me. So the thing is, if you charge in with 3 units, you'll get to fight with 2 of them because it'll go, you go, your opponent goes, then you go again. And then you win out in the action economy here. And action economy is like, using all of your activations up in a way that benefits you. There's also things called opportunity cost, in which case you're trying to do the most with as little as possible. And we also talk a lot about trading out, in that when I'm picking my fights, I need my units to earn their points back. And, they need to kill so many points in order to be an even trade, or give me so much utility or buffs or things where they're worth being in the list. All right. Our next big thing, we need anvils. We need units that can take a punch, that can sit on an objective, that can be tanky, that can ignore shooting, can ignore spells for whatever reason, because that's where a lot of mortal wounds and things are coming from these days. It's wizards, because it's the wizard season. We need those. That's if all right. We need them. Now we also need units that are screens, or sometimes called chaff units. All right, these are units that are cheap enough that we can move them up to the middle of the board to grab objectives when we don't want to stick the necks out of any of our hammer units, and our anvils are just honestly too slow to get out there. And even if an anvil unit is good and durable, it might still just die. So I want something cheap that can die in place of one of my good units that can still score me points. An example of this, like for my Stormcast armies, is a unit of Aether Wings. For 70 points, I have 3 models. They fly. They go like 12 or 14 inches. I only ever really need to move them like 10, and then they die immediately. But They die in place of my more important things, and they can usually score me objectives and potentially a battle tactic or two before they die, which is great. That's how we win games here. So I've said all these things, and I even made the joke to whiz or not to whiz. That is the question, because I love puns. What does any of this actually look like? Okay. So glad you asked. So here, as an example of a mock-up, we have the Daughters of Cain. We're doing Xanthar Kai. So the bow snakes in our army are going to be battle line, spellcasting savant. So our general, who's the Blood Black Medusa, and the appropriate wizard for this season, stays alive. We want her to stay alive anyway. This is really more. I'm taking the template of an army that has always been good in Daughters of Cain, Barathi and the Bow Snakes, and just nudging it a bit into the direction I needed to go for this kind of season. Easy as that. So, for battalions here, we have a battle regiment and an Endorian Acolytes battalion. What the Acolytes does is, as long as at least two of the members in there are the appropriate keywords for the wizards, which I have a pair of Medusae. Uh, I get to roll for an extra primal dice, which is amazing. And again, that is an extra primal dice at the start of the hero phase. Not just my own. I feel like that should have been FAQ, but I haven't seen anything on it. So this allows us to have an extra primal dice to cast our own spells and to stop others. So a faction like Daughters of Cain that isn't traditionally a spell dom can play pretty close to one. You know, we've got Zealous Orator there for the rallies still. We've got the Shadow Stone and Mind Razor, which were auto takes on the Medusa, which we would then throw onto the Shadow Queen. We've got Mirror Dance for some movement tricks. That other Bloodrack Medusa could have whatever spell you want. We've got 15 of the Bloodstalkers to shoot anybody down in the hero phase and the shooting phase. Witch Elves, the Kinnerai for the easy battle tactic take. Geminids to try to help protect the Shadow Queen from Unleash Hells. And we're 3-drop. So, but what does this mean here? What? Because we used those terms before, anvils and hammers and all that. Let's get back into that. And screens, more importantly. So Daughters of Cain don't necessarily have that many cheap troops that'll forward deploy or teleport or move and take objectives that cheaply for the points to wound ratio. But you know what? These Heartrenders, they get decent shooting, they deep strike, and when they come down, they can take up space to be forward screens. Also, we have Witch Elves here with pairs of sacrificial knives for extra damage if someone gets too close. Will they die? Yes. Will I be able to rally them back on a 4-up? Yeah. And they're just there to really make sure that if someone's going to come in and be aggressive to me, like, say, an Ironjaw's army that's trying to alpha strike in, they hit Witch Elves instead of anything else important. Like, say, my Bloodstalkers, who are a beautiful ranged hammer. And this is also a case of those Witch Elves are themselves very good at dealing damage. They can count as a hammer unit as well in melee, along with the Shadow Queen. So if I'm trying to be extremely aggressive, I can push forward, get into combat with multiple of my units, and then outnumber my enemies so my activations and leave me feeling a lot better. You know, and again, Geminids I feel is an underrated endless spell at the moment. It's not as good as it used to be, but it is still really good and it is cheap. And it's a solid list. 3 drops, you're low for drops. And, you know, if someone's dropping lower than you, they don't have the Acolytes Battalion. So you're probably going to be getting all the spells off you need. And it's really nice to be able to get Mind Razor off on the Shadow Queen, which again is the big Marathi snake with wings that murders everything on sight. You're feeling really good about yourself. And if they are, you know, more drops than you because they took other battalions for other things, great. Now you get to decide when and how and, you know, where do you want to go and who's going first with how you deploy. You know, you're going to put all your stuff down. It's a pretty simple deployment of the two witch elves as forward queens, bloodstalkers, and the big lady behind her. Heroes where they can be protected from just being shot. You have a bunch of unbinds, which is nice. You have a good time. It's a good list. It will probably always be in vogue in one way or the other. If you wanted to just make it a one drop, that's extremely easy. Just drop one of the Medusa there, heroes, and then with those extra points, buff up a unit of witch elves. And then you got a good play for a triumph as well. Yeah, nice, easy. Then you can decide if you want to take first or if you feel you're in a good position where you can give away the turn because you are, as much as you do melee in this, you are a shooting army with those bloodstalkers with their mortal wound shots. And if you can double turn your opponent with that, you're going to feel good. And the reason you're going to be able to double turn somebody and feel good about it is you brought screens to take and soak up the damage. So your archers can be fine. And then if they shoot off some of your bloodstalkers, well, guess what? That's 30 wounds. You've got all these different buffs on them, all out defense them. You've got your ward save built in. And a 4-up rally. You're going to be okay. You're going to have an army into round 3 for sure. All right. So what? This is taking a really good list and bumping it up. What's another good thing that's anti-magic? And we have Corn. Yes, the other half of the Age of Sigmar launch box. It's looking pretty good here. We're going Slaughter of Sorcery, which is a special grand strategy from the book where there's just make sure at the end of the game there's no wizards. Well, Corn's not bringing any. All right, and they also get to use nullstone adornments, which are like artifacts we've talked about before on the channel. But if your army doesn't have any wizards, you get a choice of 3. You get 1 for free to be able to keep you in the game. The Blood Secretor there has the nullstone icon, which lets you unbind spells like as if you were a wizard, which would then allow you to use the primal dice. And for every successful unbind, that hero can unbind again, and again, and again, until they fail an unbind. Then we have a lot of unbinds in this army, including the Fleshhounds have an ability to unbind. You've got 2 Slaughter Priests there. Where, again, we are looking for ways to mess with the enemy. Because you're Corn, you are going to have the spell ignore built into your army. You've got, it doesn't really matter, the sub faction, you pick it as you see fit. I just play against a lot of this. I don't necessarily play it myself, so forgive me on not being 100% specific. But you can feel good about bringing Scarbrand and bringing a Boom Thirster, also known as the Bloodthirst of Insensate Rage. You've got Wrathmongers in here, 2 units of 5 to be able to broadcast the aura of extra attacks on your stuff. You've got Fleshhounds, you've got the Claws of Karnak that pair well into them. Blood Warriors are very grindy. They can be an anvil for your army to sit on an objective. They can do okay damage. The Fleshhounds are your fast element that can help you get the battle tactics, where the one where you surround them on 3 sides. They also are excellent screens because they're 100 points for 5. They're going to die. They're going to generate you Blood Tithe point. You're going to summon demons in after them. You're going to be fine. And the Claws of Karnak as well also have a cool pregame move, which allows them to be a third screen, probably like in the middle, or to and touch an objective if you're not going first, where then your opponent has to try to take it off of you. This is that kind of insurance. But again, the point of this too is we're protecting Scarbrand, we're protecting the Bloodthirsters, and we've got other pieces that are really good in melee. And the thing is, Scarbrand gets better as he gets hurt, right? So you don't necessarily need him to go first. So if you charged in, both Thirsters and the Blood Warriors, go with your Boom Thirster, follow up with Scarbrand maybe, or the Blood Warriors. They'll get good damage out with all the extra attacks from the Wrathmongers. We have Garrick's Reavers there, because that's going to pair up with the Slaughter Priest that does Blood Sacrifice in order to try to generate more Blood Tithe points. And then Garrick's Reavers also don't have that many wounds to them, so when they die, they generate another Blood Tithe point. We also have the Pouch of Null Dust. So I'm gonna read verbatim here what we got going, because it's one of those things that I was a little about at first, because I liked the Pebble, but it's really good. So the Pouch of Null Dust, to remind everybody, including myself, is once per battle. At the start of your hero phase, you can say the bearer will use their pouch. If you do so until the end of that phase, unmodified casting rolls that include a double 1, 2, or double 3 are treated as miscast. Or if a primal magic dice was used, it is a primal miscast. In addition, roll the dice for each endless spell on the battlefield. On a 5-up, that endless spell is dispelled. So, what does this mean for us? We have a way, if someone's bringing 3 or so wizards, they are very likely to blow themselves up. Not only that, because you're Khorne, there's ways for you to get them to take D6 mortal wounds instead of D3 when they have some kind of a miscast onto them. And also, in this list, and we are all the drops. We are 9 drops. 133 wounds, we're pretty beefy. We have the lovely Hexgorger Skulls, which also mess with magic. The Bleeding Icon, which is just a way to stop battle shocking from being stopped with Inspiring Presence, which can be very nice. It also can affect how many models flee from that unit, because we want as many Blood Tithe points as possible. I don't want any models living on a wound, auto-passing Battle Shock to tie up one of my Bloodthirsters so I can't do what I need to do here, whether it's fight in the hero phase and make a charge move, or not be able to move in my movement phase because I'm stuck in combat. Whatever the scenario is, I don't want that happening. I don't even want to think about it. So the Bleeding Icon is very nice. I do like the Wrath Axe, but we are unfortunately 10 points shy in this list of being able to take it. Because it's 70 points, so slotting in the 50 there when I only had 60 spare was nice. Again, the 2 Slaughter Priest, Bronze Flesh for the +1 to save, Blood Sacrifice for the extra summoning. Blood Secretors are amazing. We also have the Wizard Finders of Andor, which allows units in that battalion to be able to get extra attacks versus wizards. So if you're running into units of Lumineth Realm Lords, you're just going to eat them. And then, because that's the thing with I have the Wrathmongers in that because they're not actually affected by their own +1 attack buff. So this feels nice. And then the let's see here. We've got. Ooh, I didn't put the Blood Warriors in a battalion. This is actually an 8 drop because Khorne wants it. So I also have a lovely Warlord battalion. That's how I grabbed the second Nullstone Adornment. I took an extra enhancement, which in this case it's reading as artifact because it's a little weird. Um, and yeah, so we're really going to be 8 drops, which is nice. And I also get the extra command point from the Warlord Battalion. And this, it feels nice. It just really feels nice to be able to do this because the fear was that magic armies were going to run away with everything and you'd never have a shot to be able to go against the current season's mechanic. And this is going to be a year-long mechanic and year-long General's Handbook. But the fact that there are armies, especially Khorne, that do anti-magic so well that it keeps people in check is fantastic. And I love it. You know, it's a very achievable grand strategy. We've got Bloodthirsty as a triumph just because it's funny to me. And we have ways to buff up our Bloodthirsters to have extra attacks and to do extra things. I think it's a solid list. These again, we've got screens and the Flesh Hounds that are also fast moving. We've got an Anvil and the Blood Warriors that can also do some damage. We've got Wrathmongers everywhere. We've got Bloodthirsters. We're summoning a Bloodthirster very soon with this list to get a third one, or at least to replace one that dies. And yeah, you know, hopefully we get 3 or 4 Blood Tithe out of Garrick's Reavers. And then we kill some stuff. You know, that's how this list works. I like it a lot. I think it's really strong. And again, has our actual thought process in making a list really changed? No, not really. You know, we've got ways with making low drop list or high drop list. Because the other thing is with a high drop list, let's remember too here, is that you get to see how your opponent fully deploys before you put your important stuff down. So how you would play this is you screen out with Flesh Hounds and the claws there, and then you save the Bloodthirsters till last, if you could help it. Like the regular Bloodthirster, because again, I have Scarbrand in the Battle Regiment, and that's going to go where you need it to. You know, if you have Scarbrand in the middle, and then you see one side your opponent is like overloaded with beautiful wizards that you can get with your Mortal Wound Explosion, feel free to go hunt them. And you're probably going to be made to go first, and you don't care because you have cheap troops that you can sacrifice for Blood Tithe points and rush up to take objectives for you. And it's a good time. And if you go second, great. That means you have a chance to double turn with a melee army while all they do is hit Flesh Hounds. Are they going to try to shoot some Bloodthirsters down? Of course. Are they going to try to nuke you with magic? Well, you know what? You've got plenty of Nullstone stuff to mess with that. And life's really good when you've got some anti-magical backing. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching today. As I say at the end of all of our videos, be nice, roll some dice, like and subscribe. Also, drop some comments too if you want us to cover different topics here. You know I love answering questions. And with that, bye everybody.